Hey brothers and sisters, welcome back to the Behavior Revolution, and we're in these little gems from Revelation, just pulling out some random thoughts here and there, jumping all over the place as the visions do. And in our last chapter we talked about the great white throne judgment and the 12 thrones that Yahusha promises his 12 disciples that they'll be sitting on to judge with him. Judge at the great white throne judgment, I reckon. And there's 24 thrones actually, so there's 24 elders, people sitting on them. I want to talk about these 24 thrones today. Let's go into it a little bit more. And to do that, we're going right back to Revelation 4, so we're jumping all over the place. In Revelation 4, John sees, he says, "After this I looked and saw a door having been opened in the heaven." A door, like a portal. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, "Come up here and I'll show you what's going to take place after this." And immediately, after this, he's just gone through all the letters to the assemblies, the 7 assemblies. And then he sees this door. "Come up here, I'll show you what's going to take place." And immediately I came to be in spirit and saw a throne set in the heaven, and one sat on the throne. Only one, not two. And this is after Yahusha's gone back, so, why aren't there 2 thrones? Why, for the Father and the Son? Ezekiel makes a similar claim of being in spirit when he's shown the new Jerusalem. And in this vision, John is transported in spirit also through a cosmic portal doorway into heaven, and immediately sees a throne and the one who's sitting on it, which is an obvious allusion to Daniel's vision. John uses all these allusions to the older scriptures. It's an allusion to Daniel's vision. Why? Because he's saying the one that's sitting on it. By saying the one, he's alluding to Daniel's vision. In Daniel's vision in chapter 7, Daniel says, "As I watched, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow. The hair on his head was like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames with wheels of burning fire." So we already know this has got to be Yahusha, because Yahuah Elohim had no form. He dwells in unapproachable light. So we're starting to see the outline of a man here, clothing white as snow, hair pure wool, white, all shining, all this sort of stuff, wheels of burning fire. John is seeing what Daniel's seeing. They're seeing the same vision, the same setting anyway. And the one referring to Ancient of Days is Yahuah, the eternal creator, just like Daniel saw. Yes, it's Yahuah, but who did Yahuah become to become visualized? Anytime you can see or visualize or shake hands with or wrestle with, or anytime it's visual, it's Yahusha. But we're alluding to Daniel, because Daniel saw this Ancient of Days as well. And he who sat there was like a jasper and a ruby stone in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne, like an emerald in appearance. John implies that the one is on the throne, yet by using jasper and ruby. So John implies that the one, who we just assume is Yahuah, is on the throne. And at this point, when Daniel heard it, it would have been Yahuah. John implies that the one is on the throne, yet by using jasper and ruby gemstones, he's alluding to the first and the last son of Jacob, because that was the stones on his breastplate. So these stones that the high priest used to carry. Well, jasper and ruby speak of Reuben and Benjamin's stones on the high priest's breastplate. And who refers to himself as the Aleph Tor, the first and the last? First and the last gemstone, first and the last Aleph Tor. Who refers to himself as that in Revelation 1? It's Yahusha. Then John sees the rainbow of promise, which reassures him of Yahuah's mercy in the midst of judgment, because that's what the rainbow stood for back in Noah's day. It was a sign. But it's like an emerald rainbow, alluding to Judah's royal gemstone. And who was the most famous person to ever come from that royal tribe of Judah? Yahusha. So again, this is how you got to look at the vision. You got to look at each part and go, okay, how does that? Because as I told you back when we talked about the feast, spoiler alert, it all points to Yahusha. You can give all the glory and honor and whatever you want to Yahuah, but it's actually Yahusha who's seated on the throne. So if you're in the spirit and you look at these things, you go, oh, that's Yahusha there. That's Yahusha there. Every jot and tittle and gemstone, and, it's all about Yahusha. So likewise, as John and Daniel, likewise, we too, in spirit, can see these visions abstractly for what they are, and know that should say, Yahuah became Yahusha. The Ancient of Days became Yahusha. Yahuah put on flesh and became Yahusha. And he's about to enter the scene shortly as the slain lamb, to cleanse both heaven and earth, and take his rightful place on the throne of his Father to reign forevermore. Take the rightful place on the throne. He is the Ancient of Days. It's all about Yahusha. And around the throne were 24 thrones, and on the thrones I saw 24 elders, sitting, dressed in white robes, and they had crowns of gold on their heads. Around the thrones were 24 thrones. Around the throne were 24 thrones, not just seats, as some translations say. These are thrones. After seeing the throne and the one in the throne, John now sees the 24 elders sitting in thrones around the master throne. This is the first mention of the elders in Revelation, but they will play an important part in the workings of Yahusha. Let's talk about these 24 thrones for 24 elders. I touched on it in our last video, but the number 24 is the number of priestly order. Go back to the old historic document, all the shadows. The number 24 is the number of priestly order, priestly service. It's also the number of government. So without a doubt, John's mind understood the order of 24 associated with the temple order of service, even in his time. So should we visually be trying to visualize 24 thrones, or is it what we should be visualizing is perfect government, perfect priesthood? Do you think if 20, let's talk mad, if 25 people overcame him, do you think he'd leave one out? No, it's not about the actual number. It's about the symbolism of the perfect government. It's not about how many thrones there are. It's about the fact that these numbers, number 24, means perfect priestly order, service, and government. The priests, Levites, singers, porters, captains, princes, and officers are all arranged in their courses according to the number 24. That's what this actually means. Not about the actual number, it's about what the number means. And no, this isn't some weird cosmic gematria, all that demonic stuff in the occult. No, this is just looking at the priests and all the patterns. This is just looking at patterns going, okay, this number means something. 24, is it actual or symbolic? Under David and Solomon's temple, Israel knew that there were always 24 actual, literal priests on duty, serving and representing them. No more, no less. So in the shadow times, it was literal. But these 24 priests also represented the 24 thousands of Israelites, and also the 12 tribes of Israel before Yahuah. So back then, that's what represented as well. So they were an actual literal number, yet symbolic also. We look at it as symbolic. We've got to look in the abstract and see, how does this relate to me? But back in the patterns and shadows, it was literal. The same is true of these elders here in Revelation. They are an actual number of people, yet also a symbolic number. The song they sing shows that they represent the vast multitudes of delivered people from every tongue, tribe, and nation before the throne, in heavenly priestly service, in all esteem. The priesthood, kings and priests in the order of Melchizedek. Who are these 24 elders? If there's 24 thrones, who are these 24 elders? Who do they represent? Clearly, Yahusha told his disciples, those who follow me into the rebirth will sit on their own throne. He was talking to 12 men, so there were 12 thrones. So it made sense. Who do they represent? They represent the first 12 elders on thrones are the new blood covenant. They're all new blood covenant believers because Yahusha operates in his new blood covenant. So you've got the first disciples and you've got the last day disciples, last day leaders in Yahusha's bride who overcome and behave his love. New blood covenant. This is all 24 and it's all symbolic, remember? So let's have a look. We have new blood covenant members only. 12 first followers who walked with Yahusha, and 12 last day followers who will be involved in the final purposes of Yahusha's bride and its maturing, not the 12 sons of Jacob. Their names represented all the behaviours the bride is to put on. Why do we come to this conclusion? Why don't I think that it's the 12 tribes of Jacob, 12 sons of Jacob, Israel, and the 12 disciples? Why don't I think that? Why do I think that? Can you imagine Yahusha going back to some old type or shadow and using it in his new city? When everything from the old blood covenant was literally transformed and injected into the new blood covenant through Yahusha's perfect blood. No, it doesn't do that. Without disputing their historical importance in the story of redemption, the first 12 elders are not Jacob's sons. We're not disputing their historical importance, the patriarchs, the promises given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, David, all of them. We're not disputing their importance. Not at all. It's beautiful. In the story of redemption, all the shadows, they're pointing to Yahusha. But the first 12 elders are not Jacob's sons. I could understand if Yahuah wanted Noah or Moses. Let's talk in today's present tense. I could understand if Yahusha wanted Noah or Moses or David on his divine council, even people like Noah, Enoch, Elijah, Job, or Daniel. You could imagine if you wanted these guys, but definitely not the 12 sons of Jacob, most of which were downright wicked. These men served their purpose in fulfilling Yahuah's promises to Abraham, in establishing a royal nation to shadow forth his divine truths in. They established that. They were successful in that. Completely abominable and divorced, but they established the line of which Messiah, Yahusha our Elohim, came through. Old Israel after the flesh was divorced, and new Yisrael has been stamped and sealed with, I don't call it new Yisrael, I call it the bride now. I don't want to associate with that name because it's confusing to people. Spiritually, I guess it's new Yisrael, but it's the bride. Yeah. All the promises are given in the Spirit, stamped and sealed with all the blood covenant responsibilities and promises through a new and living way, new blood, new behavior. So you can see what's there for us. The 12 first elders stand at the close of the old blood covenant. The first 12 elders, they stand at the close of the old blood covenant, and they assist in the opening of the new blood covenant assembly. This is Yahusha's 12 disciples, standing at the close of the old blood covenant, assisting in the opening of the new blood covenant assembly. They are of the old blood covenant, yet also of the new blood covenant. They had lived, as it were, at the overlapping, at the transition of them both. They are distinctly and uniquely the 12 disciples of the Lamb, for they were with him in his earthly walk, and this makes them unique. That's the first 12. The last 12 elders stand at the close of the old earth assembly and at the opening of the new earth, transformed new bridal assembly. Got that? A new transition's going on. These guys experience the transition from the old covenant to the new covenant. We're experiencing that too, but we're experiencing the transition from becoming new, a new creature. We're going to experience the transition. It's not going to be much of a transition. It's going to be transformed and new heaven, new earth. After he destroys everything, we're going to be transformed. The last 12 are the completion of the assembly and are seen in Revelation as the 12 stars on the head of the woman in Revelation 12. That's what it is. New blood covenant. They will be part of the last day revolution for behavioral maturity under the outpouring of Yahusha's Spirit at the close of this old earth before Yahusha destroys everything, with the sheer magnitude of his radiating perfect presence and makes all things new. Last day revolution for behavioral maturity. Through the vein, spirit and fire, through the stone quarry, into the, they've been delivered and they're in the wilderness and they're waiting. So that's who they are. That's who these 24 new covenant believers, elders, seated on 24 thrones. That's who they are. And 7 lamps of fire were burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim. 7 lamps burning before the throne are just like the 7 lamps burning on the golden lampstand in the tabernacle of Moses or temple of Solomon. Lamps were very important in scriptural times and had to be always burning in the darkness of the night. The word of Yahuah is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. The set-apart spirit of Yahusha is also likened to a lamp. So the word and the spirit together produce light. That's what's happening through the vein. 7 spirits of Elohim. 7 speaks of fullness, completeness, and perfection. So 7 spirits means that Yahusha, his set-apart spirit, has completed his perfect work. And his 7 lampstands, or 7 assemblies, are perfect, having had all gifts, favour, fruit, training, and power given to them. That's happening through the vein as well. He's maturing his bride. Let's finish chapter 21. The frozen sea in heaven, and before the throne there was a glass sea like crystal, a sea of glass like crystal, as if turning to ice. And in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures, covered with eyes in front and in back. The sea of glass is positioned before the throne, and it's crystal clear. There are 2 references to the sea of glass in Revelation. In Revelation 4, the sea of glass is before the throne, crystal clear and empty. And in Revelation 15, the sea of glass is mingled with fire and believers stand on it. That's interesting, isn't it? The sea of glass here is just clear as crystal, and the sea of glass in Revelation 15 is mingled with fire and believers stand on it. A fire process is going on. In Solomon's era, a large brass laver of water, the brazen lava of water for ritual washing purposes, was set in the temple area for priests to use. It was known as the molten sea. It was huge, like an elaborate above ground swimming pool. Look at it. And what we do, and what do we find before Yahusha in his heavenly temple next to his throne? What do we find in Yahusha's temple next to his throne? Something called a glass sea. Not the molten sea, the glass sea. And who was present around his throne? 24 priests who used the sea for ritual purification. Interesting, but it's fire mingled with it. Scripture uses the restless sea of earth to speak of restlessness, agitation, cross currents, undercurrents, upheavals, trials, troubles, tidal waves, and devastation. The wicked are like the troubled sea, whose waters toss up mire and dirt. The waters represent peoples, nations, tongues. Evil beasts arrive out of the sea of humanity also. Evil beasts, remember those Revelation visions? The beasts that come out of the sea. In contrast, the peaceful sea in heaven is seen in the crystal clear sea of glass. All is still, peaceful, restful, clear, and transparent. There is nothing murky in heaven's sea, only absolute divine calm. All is clear as crystal from heaven's viewpoint. That's what's going on here. This is the sea of glass, like crystal. Certain times in Revelation there was fire on it. There's a process going on, isn't there? In the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures covered with eyes in front and in back. And the first living creature was like a lion, the second like an ox, the third had the face of a man, and the fourth was like a flying eagle. And the 4 living creatures each had 6 wings and were covered with eyes all around and within. And day and night they didn't stop saying, perfect and set apart, holy, holy, holy is Yahuah Al-Shaddai, who was and who is and who's coming. And who's coming? Well, who's the one who's coming back? Revelation says it's Yahusha. Who is this being? Who is Yahuah Al-Shaddai? Mighty Elohim of the mountain. Who is this Yahuah Al-Shaddai being? What's the revelation of who he is? It's Yahusha. And in Hebrew, this word that they're crying out is Kodesh. Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. Even more. That's why they call it the Ruach HaKodesh. Set apart spirit, Holy Spirit. It's Kodesh. Even more, what that means is even more super duper uber set apart than the most set apart set apartness. also defines Yahuwah's name. That's what Yahuwah's name means, all these things. But Yahuwah's name does not mean deliverance. Yahusha's name does. Nothing in Scripture stands alone. It's all connected. And to demonstrate this, listen to what Ezekiel says. He was a prophet that lived about 700 years after Moses and about 700 years before John wrote Revelation. Ezekiel sees heaven and Yahuwah's throne area and speaks about 4 living creatures with wings and 4 faces. He says, and each of the 4 living creatures had faces and wings, and the likeness of their faces, the face of a man, lion, ox, eagle, and each one went straight forward, going where the Spirit was to go, and they did not turn where they went. And the appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of torches moving back and forth among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went lightning. So he's associating with what Ezekiel saw. In the time of the Exodus, the placement of the 12 tribes around the wilderness tabernacle had tremendous prophetic symbolism and meaning, showing a tribal pecking order. As with the priest's breastplate, the 12 tribes were divided into 4 groups of 3 tribes, and each group was assigned a specific and permanent side of the tabernacle on which they were to camp, and it was given according to compass directions. Each of the 3 tribal groups had a dominant leader tribe, so there were 4 dominant tribes in all, Reuben, Dan, Judah, and Ephraim, and each had a symbolic, specific number, an emblem placed upon a banner by which they were known. Yahusha, of course, is the Lion of Judah. Judah's symbol was the lion, Ephraim's the ox, Dan's the eagle, and Reuben was the man. These tribes surrounded Yahuwah's tabernacle throne on earth, protecting it from outsiders, and Yahuwah protected them from any surrounding enemies. See the shadow? These tribes were protecting the tabernacle, his throne on earth, and these living creatures are protecting the throne in heaven. A giant tent city. So these tribes were camped around the throne. There's the throne in there. 4 living creatures of John's vision in heaven had the faces of a lion, eagle, ox, and a man. The same symbols of the 4 dominant tribes of Israel. Coincidence? Hardly. The connections between the earthly physical Israel and the heavenly throne room of Yahuwah are unmistakable. These strange creatures were said to have 6 wings and were full of eyes, which is an allusion to Isaiah's vision again. In Isaiah 6, I saw Yahuwah sitting on a throne high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple with steam. Above it stood mighty seraphim, each having 6 wings. 2 wings he covered his face, with 2 wings he covered his feet, 2 wings he flew. And one cried to another and said, Perfect and set apart is Yahuwah of hosts, for all the earth is filled with his esteem. That's exactly word for word what was said in Revelation. Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. Holy, 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 set apart, set apart. And the posts of the door were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. See how it's all connected here? These seraphim creatures. While John doesn't give these creatures a name, Isaiah does. He just says John just says he sees creatures, all these eyes and whatnot. But Isaiah calls them seraphim. And we see Isaiah speaking about these beings constantly. And we see Isaiah speak about how these beings constantly praise Yahuwah's set apartness. So among Isaiah, Ezekiel, and John, we get a combined picture of these guardian spirit beings around Yahuwah's throne. Guardian spirit beings around Yahuwah's throne. Remember, this is all imagery. They're not going to look like this. But there are beings like this. All the descriptions are symbolic, abstract. These creatures were full of eyes, showing that they see everything and also know everything, for nothing escapes their gaze. They never pause in their watchfulness over Yahusha himself or over his creation. But they also never stop praising him, and neither should we. It's the best thing we can do. That's how you know you're in the higher place, I guess, when you're just praising and happy and content and in his presence all the time. There is no drama in you. What about the wings? The wings in Scripture always speak of Yahuwah's Spirit in relation to supernatural transport, which is likened to eagle wing power. John would be very familiar with the whole concept of wings in the temple order, since imagery of the winged cherubim were throughout the temple and the furnishings. The bride is also likened to eagles and will fly on the wings as they wait on Yahusha. Fly on the wings into the wilderness to be protected from the dragon. It speaks of the supernatural transportation and transformation like Elijah and Philip experienced, supernaturally whisked away. The woman in Revelation 12 is given eagle's wings for the safe flight into the wilderness. This eagle wing power was demonstrated in all those who experienced transformation, whether in this dimension or into another, like those guys. So let's go on. And when the living creatures give esteem and respect and thanks to him who sits on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne and bow before him who lives forever and ever. And they cast their crowns before the throne, saying, "You are worthy, Yahusha, to receive esteem and respect and power, for you have created all, and because of your desire, they are and were created." That's what we're going to be doing in this heavenly place, in this new Jerusalem. We'll be bowing down and praising him. Why do the elders praise as they do? They're expressing that what makes Yahuah so worthy of praise is the entire creation came about purely by his decision and because his wisdom is demonstrated by his creation. This is why they're praising Yahusha in such a way. No one from this lower dimension can exist in the magnificence of his light, the light that radiates from the higher dimension of heaven. As earthly beasts, we need a divine operation within to begin this eagle wing transformation. We call it a vein, going in the vein. He's given us a new heart and a new spirit, assets that are divine and incorruptible from his dimension, and allow us direct portal access to Yahusha. No earthly flesh can stand in his perfect set-apartness, and this is the burning of the sin and the self that Isaiah experienced through the hot coals. What are the hot coals that Isaiah experienced? "Don't come near me, cursed am I, because I'm a man of unclean things and a man of unclean lips." And remember that speech he gives? And the angel gets the tongs, he gets the coal out of the set-apart fire, the holy fire, and he puts it on his lips and he cleanses him. He says, "Yes, he copped that. Now you're clean." That's the fire baptism that we go through to become clean. This is the burning of the sin and the self that Isaiah experienced through the hot coals that the four-faced living creatures gave to him. Purity of being is required in order to prepare the way for Yahusha's return. And the final translation to marriage, immortality. And that's why we need to go through the vein to become pure, to become clean. So I hope that shed some light on the 24 thrones and the living creatures around the throne. It's all cosmic and abstract and wonderful to put your mind there. Think about what's coming for us. Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor can we even fathom, nor has entered the mind, our imagination, what Yahusha has prepared for those who love him. Go through the vein, brothers and sisters, and get clean. What if we're right? What if you're wrong? What if just knowing his name doesn't deliver you? You got to know that he's Elohim and follow him through his footsteps. He walked on the word. He walked through the process of the feasts. He walked there to the suffering and the death and the resurrection, as we can too through the vein. Love you guys. Bye-bye.